I had to start this over again because I forgot what day it was. It's funny, like the dates. And again, this could be part of aging. I'm really not sure. I don't remember having this much confusion about what day it is though when I was like 30, even 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I was only 52. I was a young Turk at 52. mm. Excuse me. You'll see, I've gone back to Duncan. What's his name? Chase Affleck. No, not Chase Affleck. What the hell's that guy's name? Ah, shit. Ben Affleck's brother. Casey Affleck, sorry. He's the king of Dunkin' Donuts. If you haven't seen that commercial. Oh, it's not a commercial. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. I'll tell you what, SNL, man, over the years, they started in 1976 or something like that, or 75. Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, all those guys. And Larry David, I guess, was part of that too, if I'm not mistaken. But can you imagine the energy where you have to come up with something good every 7 days? No excuses. We're going live on Saturday night, folks. We better have something funny. You gotta be funny. I'm not yelling at you hard. My dog thinks I'm yelling at him. Hey, where'd you go? I'm not yelling at you, okay? Not this time, anyway. All right, so it is May 19th, 2023. It is about 9 o'clock, I'm gonna say. About 20 of 9 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. Southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm here at Geo Carlson Airport. I call it Coatesville Airport. Most people know it as Coatesville Airport. This runway was constructed, I'm pretty sure, the 40s or the 50s. I'm not, or it could be the 30s. I gotta look into that. But you know, to put in the middle of Chester County, the middle of nowhere, a mile-long runway, a little bit more than a mile-long runway. And in that time frame, first of all, the airplanes, well, they needed that extra distance because the engines weren't that strong back then, but it was for small airplanes. Now you can get subsonic jets, high-end, $1 million jets in and out of here, and it's uncontrolled. Man, people with money like it when it's uncontrolled. They don't want anybody to know what they're doing. All right, so before I go off on a tangent, I'm going to keep a lookout. You know, the windsock says the wind's coming out of the east. Oh, it just spun around. Oh, and it's indicating the wind is out of the west. And I'm looking at the upper cloud layer. So if you look up, okay, there's no ceiling over here. Almost, not quite a ceiling. And there's no convective activity. Convective activity is just up and down, like air going violently up and then violently down, and with force, dramatic force, and it's a huge hazard to aviation. The two biggest hazards are icing and, as far as conditions are concerned, weather conditions, icing and convective activity. And convective activity simply means that there's a weather front that's moving in quickly and it's disrupting everything, and it turns everything into a cauldron of up and down air currents. So it's pretty cool that they put this runway here so long ago. I'm pretty sure it was in the 30s, if I'm not mistaken. Because they had, the government was just trying to build infrastructure in the 30s during the Great Depression, give people work, put people to work. My father always said, Roosevelt was great because, he put them to work. He couldn't find a job, and Roosevelt comes along. He didn't handle the Depression very well. I didn't think, Franklin Roosevelt, or maybe they just didn't understand that the system needed liquidity. And, that's what's been done since then. But the liquidity answer to what happened in 1929 in the Great Depression, it can be a temporary fix, but it creates inflation too. Although what the government did was they hired people to work, not just to give people money because they're poor or on welfare or something like that. Give a guy a job, man. Don't give him free money. Give him a job, unless he's elderly like me, and then I deserve all the free money I can get. It's not free, by the way. I worked 50, almost 60 years. And all those years of working, I paid all the time into Social Security, into Medicare, and unemployment insurance. The government was in my pocket so often for tax money that they kind of thought they were part of my family, I think. you know, always getting money out of me. That's not true about my family either. One thing I can say about the Irish, as poor as most of them are and have been, they're always generous, you know? And what a great legacy, you know, generosity. What a great, great legacy that is. And it doesn't always work. Matter of fact, I'd say it's got more liability than benefits to it, probably. Because, you know, like the Christmas Carol story by Charles Dickens, you know, Scrooge ends up, after being visited by the three ghosts of Christmas, he turns into this, like, charitable, benevolent kind of guy. Well, guess what happened? A year later, there was it wasn't Scrooge. It didn't have anybody famous in it, like Bill Murray or anything. There was, because he did something on that theme too. Bill Murray did. This was, like, I guess it wasn't that well received, but I thought it was great because it showed the same exact thing. Well, not exactly the same, because Scrooge is a year older now, and he's a year into his new existence. But he's real generous at Christmas time now. And he goes around, he's helping everybody. Well, guess what? You know, there's the rotten, dirty, psychopathic aspect of human nature that is left out of this story. And Charles Dickens, you know, it was hard enough for him to tell the story as it is. But you go a year later, and, you know, Scrooge is, like, busy being generous to everybody. Well, his business starts suffering. And people start taking advantage of him, and that is the dirtiest, most foul, one of the most foul aspects of human nature that I can think of. You take advantage of somebody's charity and generosity, you're pretty despicable if you do that. And I've known people that have done that. There have been people close to me that have done that. But anyway, okay, so here's a situation in Florida where, and I didn't understand it until I just read about it in detail this morning. DeSantis doesn't like the way Disney is the most conservative company on the planet. I'm not kidding. You know, I've been to Disneyland out in California. I've never been to the one in Florida. I don't like Florida, so, you know. But the Disneyland out in California, man, they had the Gestapo in that place, man. They were like monitoring every person as far as what they were doing, smoking or cigarette or what were we doing? I forget. Well, I ended up going there with a friend, and we got followed around the whole time we were there by security. Anyway, Disney hasn't endorsed LGBT, but, you know, they're acknowledging their existence. And DeSantis doesn't want to do that. He does not want to acknowledge the existence of these human beings. Now, I don't care if you're conservative or liberal. It doesn't make any difference to me. I lean towards conservatism, but I'm a Democrat. I'm a conservative Democrat only because they're not as contentious. I mean, it seems to me they're not as contentious. Well, Donald Trump, I mean, he solidified the whole contentious kind of approach to politics by the Republican Party. And it's really sad because this is the same party that in the Reagan years was promoting smaller government and lower taxes. That you're going to get everybody to vote for you if you can do that. Do that. My Republican colleagues, do that. You know, and I've voted Republican in the past. But since they've gone off the rails on this kind of like hate, it's like a hate, like, you know, if you're miserable with your life, there are a lot of miserable people too. And somebody comes along and says, well, you're miserable is because of them. And he points at the liberals and the Democrats and all, but they don't have they don't have any agenda. All they have is hatred. That's their agenda. They're getting a lot of traction, though, you know, with that. Okay, man, I'm full of hate, piss and vinegar. Look at January 6th. You tell me there was no hate there? Take another look. They don't even know what they were fighting against. Oh, yeah, the election was stolen. No, it wasn't. Give that shit up, man. Like, move forward with an agenda. Oh, and here's the thing about LGBT and even the African community. You know, Africans, you know, they're mostly Democrats now. But I think they do that because they think that the Democrats are going to take care of them. But instead, if you were to propose to them, hey, and there was a guy just opened an ice cream shop in downtown Coatesville, which takes a lot of courage. And he's got a good business, man. He's got a good business, and it's fun. And it's a great feeling of achievement when you have your own business. That's the way out of poverty, in my opinion. Or you might get a good career with a good company or something like that. But just waiting for the government to give you a handout, you're not doing anything for yourself. You're not doing anything for your family or your people. Okay, you're not. So if DeSantis and the Republicans were to come and approach, diversity from the point of view that, hey, if we're all together on this, we can lower taxes and we can make the government smaller, but we all have to be on board, and they made a point of that. And then also say, and we're not going to let people starve in the streets. We're not forgetting, about the disenfranchised, the homeless people. We're going to take a hard look at everything, though, and people that are in good health. And I see this every day, by the way. Okay, in Coatesville, I see single guys just shuffling up and down the sidewalks and the alleys of Coatesville in the middle of a work day, doing nothing. Okay, when I got divorced, and I was told by the government, and they put a bald fist in my face, the government. It's never good, but they had to do that. And I agree with what they do in domestic relations situations, because guys don't want to pay their ex-wives any money, but they don't get it that the money is needed because it costs money to raise kids. And if you're the father of a kid, you got to help. Anyway, in Coatesville, these guys that are just hanging around, and there's a robust drug business going there, and I think there's prostitution too. These single guys just hanging around all the time, doing nothing. That's a recipe for perdition. It is, and it's the opposite of what's so good about our country. People come here not because they love us. They don't love us, but they will risk their lives to get in here because of free enterprise, individual human rights. I don't know. I don't understand the Republicans, why they're positioning themselves against human rights advocates and climate change. Climate change. If the Republicans and the Democrats could team up, and combine their ideas about climate change, I'll bet you we come up with a winner. And the main thing is, we shouldn't be holding back businesses unless they're polluting the environment or contaminating the environment. Of course, stealing money, breaking the law, like SBF and FTX, but Sam Bankman-Fried, everything that comes out about that guy. It was so predictable too. Hey, look at this. He's spending another $1 billion here and $1 billion there and $1 billion. What did he do to get all that money? And I remember one guy asking that, the guy that I follow on YouTube, what did he do to get that money? Oh yeah, he stole it. He stole it. He'll never see the light of day. That guy's going to spend the rest of his life incarcerated. It's just tragic. It's kind of sad, but at least justice worked in that case. Anyway, Governor DeSantis, you are that close to being a winner, in my opinion. Don't fall into this trap of hatred and contempt for diversity and people. If I'm born, I'm a freak, what you would call a freak. I don't call LGBTs freak. They're just people that have a different sexual orientation. And I wish that I'd known about some of this stuff when I was younger. 5th grade, in my opinion, is when you start talking about the birds and the bees at 10 years old. Actually, 8 years old, 3rd grade. Birds and the bees, 3rd grade. Diversity, debates and discussion about history, and I mean starting in 5th grade with this stuff, and really on a basic level, a really basic level. Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence, he was despicable, in my opinion, for owning slaves his whole life. He should have known better than that. And of course, that's what spawned the Civil War about 90 years later. But what he says in the Declaration of Independence, you should substitute the word men for human beings. All human beings are created equal and should have the opportunity to participate in the pursuit of happiness and wealth. There's nothing wrong with prosperity. Actually, everything right with prosperity. Being poor sucks. Being poor sucks. Let me see that one more time. Poverty and being poor sucks. There's nothing good about it. It pushes you towards crime and everything else, to make ends meet, and it's just, the answer is free enterprise and capitalism. It's not to have the government, holding the purse strings for the money for our economy. Government sucks at doing the stuff like that. They're not good. I'm not sure what they're good at, but they're needed. We need to have the government, but at the same time, we need to control it and without having a January 6th incident again. And let me tell you one thing. Okay, if the Republicans that are watching this think I'm getting soft on January 6th, I'm not. That was treason, plain and simple. It was treason. Was it a red flag? Yeah. And if they had gone to the Capitol and marched around the Capitol and screamed and yelled, whatever you want to do without getting violent, okay. Nonviolent protesting. Martin Luther King was an advocate of that, but nonviolent. What in the hell happened on January 6th? How could these people be allowed to do this? What they did? We can't ever let that happen again. I mean, if we want to survive as a country. Anyway, peace, you guys. I hope you have a great day. Reach out to the other side, just shake somebody's hand, say hello to somebody, tell somebody to have a good day. That is somebody that's outside of your idea of what a normal person is, and you'll be surprised in a really good way too. Peace, y'all. Have a great day.